Welcome to this meeting of Assembly Committee on Education for the 2023 legislative session. Secretary, will you please call roll?
Assemblywoman Anderson.
Present.
Assemblyman De Silva.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hanson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hardy.
Here.
Assemblyman Koenig.
Here.
Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Here.
Assemblyman MacArthur.
Here.
Assemblywoman Mosca.
Here.
Assemblywoman Taylor.
Present.
Assemblywoman Thomas.
Here.
Assemblywoman Torres.
Here.
Chair Bilbray Axelrod.
Here. And we have everyone here, so thank you. Okay, well, welcome everyone, the audience here in Carson City, those joining by video and by conference in Las Vegas. Looks like we got a few people down there. Welcome. Just a reminder, silence your cell phones or anything else that makes noise. And if you wish to testify, please sign in by the table by the front door and provide a business card to our committee secretary. When testifying, please turn on your microphone and clearly state your name, any affiliation you have for the record. Then turn your microphone off each time you're done speaking. There should be 20 hard copies for members of the public. Electronic copies should have been submitted to our committee manager by 1:30 p.m. yesterday for members of the committee. We expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting. Committee members may be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please don't view this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. And with that, let's get started. We have what was once a pretty meaty bill and is no longer. So just so you know, there is an amendment on Nellis, but we're going to open the hearing for AB 65. This measure revises provisions relating to education. We have Joan Ebert, State Superintendent of Public Education, and Craig Stuckey. I did it. Statuki. And it's right here, and I still can't do it. Interim Deputy Superintendent for Educator Effectiveness and Family Engagement, and Dwayne Young, Interim Deputy Superintendent for Student Achievement. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Bilbray Axelrod, Vice Chair Taylor, members of the committee. It is my pleasure and honor to be here in front of you today. My name is Joan Ebert, and I serve as the State Superintendent of Public Instruction. As the chair introduced, I am blessed and honored that I have two amazing human beings sitting next to me, both who are here to support. Craig Statuki is Interim Deputy Superintendent for Educator Effectiveness and Family Engagement. And then dear colleague is with us until Friday as Interim Deputy Superintendent over Educator Effectiveness and Student Achievement. And just very glad that he stepped up, raised his hand to help us do this work for a time to get the legislative session launched. So thank you. We did, as note, submit a friendly amendment, and I'll be speaking to that at the end of all of this work that is before you. It still has a lot of information that we would like to present to you today. So starting in Section 2, the definition of bullying was added first in NRS Chapter 388 within the passage of SB 163 during the 2009 session, and it was further amended during later sessions, which included additional definitions and criteria as we've moved forward. Currently, there is no clear distinction in NRS 388.122 for schools to differentiate between bullying behavior and mutual conflict. I think it'd be nice if all of us learned at an early age how to distinguish between the two. When the term bullying is used too broadly, we know it minimizes the seriousness of real bullying and the experiences of people who are victims of bullying. Section 2 adds clarifying language to NRS 388.122 to specify that bullying does not include mutual disagreement or conflict. This change in language will help ensure bullying incidents are treated seriously and differently than incidents of mutual disagreement or conflict. Section 3 of the bill we have the role of the Department of Education has the role of adult to child investigations. According to NRS 388.14553, the local education agency, or our LEAs, our administrators, are required to follow up on all Safe Voice tips and complaints and investigate as necessary. NRS 388.1323, as currently written, requires simultaneous investigation be undertaken by the director of our Office of Safe and Respectful Learning for adult to child complaints. This currently duplicates efforts as local administrators are investigating. And I'll give you some specifics. Because we're doing it simultaneously, sometimes when the Department of Education, we contact a local principal and say, we've had a report in Safe Voice, they've either already closed it out or are currently investigating it. What we would like to do is actually create a tiered system in this bill so that, as with our other complaints that we have first the local entity, school district, going through their process. If there is a disagreement at that level, then it would be escalated up to the Department of Education to resolve that disagreement. So we're creating a tiered system for the adult to child complaints. The proposal in the bill will ensure clarity, and it does not remove, we've been asked some questions, it does not remove the responsibility of the Department of Education to oversee any of the appeals or during the investigation, that if parties disagree with what happens locally, that the department would still be involved. Section 6 clarifies the timeline for discrimination based on race and bullying investigations. The department has heard from many of our schools and district leaders that the current requirement for the discrimination based on race and bullying investigations make it difficult to conduct a thorough investigation if the bullying report is lengthy or has many students involved as witnesses. Section 6 extends the amount of time for these investigations to be equal to the amount of time given in cyberbullying investigations. So they would be the same amount of time. This extension will help ensure that the school, the district personnel, each complete each investigation with fidelity. This change only applies to the interview during the investigation period. Administrators are still required to ensure that all students are safe immediately upon any report. This change does not alter the urgency with which an administrator must intervene to ensure the safety of students and staff. It only allows more time so that all parties involved are offered a complete and thorough and accurate investigation. Additionally, Section 6 seeks to eliminate the reporting of district bullying data in a separate report to the Department of Education as written in NRS 388.1531. District bullying data is currently submitted into the statewide student information system by local education agencies. The information is made available to the public via the Nevada report card. This report is a duplication of the same information, and so removing this language would remove the quarterly submission to reporting, but that data is reported as time moves on, and it eliminates the duplication of the two. Section 9 changes the authority to approve work-based learning plans from the State Board of Education to the Superintendent of Public Instruction. There's no specific governance requiring the district or charter plans to go before the State Board, and this change will ensure the approval process is efficient and timely and allows the districts to support students in a quicker manner. This suggestion came from all of our district leaders who lead in the CTE, the directors, as well as the work-based learning coordinators. Section 10 and 11 of this bill are about the teacher evaluation process. NRS 391-690 provides that post-probationary educators whose performance has been designated as highly effective for 2 consecutive years must participate in the observation cycle in the following year, but may not receive an evaluation for that year. The department has received many questions over time, and so we'd like to make it clear that if a teacher has received 2 highly effective ratings for 2 consecutive years, they do have their observation cycle. The educator may request that they have a formal evaluation, or the educator at the discretion of the administrator. So right now, it hasn't been clear who can, if a teacher can request, if the administrator can request for that 3rd year, and so we are asking for clarifying language there. In section 12, kindergarten start date. This came about during the 2021 session in SB 102 was passed. At that time, and currently in the bill, a child must be 5 years of age before the first day of school. However, the first day of school, as we know, varies within individual counties because there are charter schools, there are private schools. The private schools are not subject to this, but there's many start dates. And so the recommendation here, and we did work with Senator Hammond as well, is to have one fixed date, and that be August 1st, as most of our school districts start around that first week in August. In that section as well, we know that Nevada law does not require children to attend kindergarten or first grade. Section 12 further clarifies guidance on the placement of a child who is 6 or 7 years old to ensure that the placement is appropriate and will meet the educational and social needs of the child. We've also received questions here, and we made a nice little flow chart based on some of the questions that were received so that it can clearly indicate August 1st and also if a child is 6 years old or 7 years old, in which grade they would enroll in. Finally, sections 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 13, and 14. That's part of our amendment proposing that we remove the changes related to restorative justice and practices. We have several different groups that would like to work in this area. We also know that the governor has been working on a bill as well. And so we are asking to have this removed in our amendment so that it may be addressed in upcoming bills. And Madam Chair, that is an overview of our bill for today.
Okay, thank you. And so you just have your phone of friends here for questions, is that correct? Okay. I'm sure we have some questions. I'm looking. All right, we'll start with Assemblywoman Anderson, who might need to leave us because she has a bill presentation in another committee.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I appreciate the amendment, as there was so many things in this. I think the first question I had, however, does have to do with, if I am understanding correctly, the language that's in section 2.3, which is on the first bill on page 6, which the language says the term does not include expressions, acts, or gestures which are engaged in as part of a mutual disagreement or conflict. That is still present in the language being proposed. Am I correct? Okay. I see heads shaking, so I'm going to go from there. So what happens if it is a situation where, unfortunately, does occur with our students as they're learning the proper way to work through conflict, where an individual has been bullied, they have not mentioned it to anybody, it's been an ongoing bullying situation, and then they decide, forget it. We're going to meet at, in my middle school, it was Dog Alley, it was an alley that was 3 blocks away from the school. We're just going to meet there. Because that is a mutual decision to meet. Is that still under this language, or is that a separate situation that would need to be handled differently?
Christine McGill, for the record, Director of the Office of Safe and Respectful Learning, and thank you for the question. I think you hit on the meat of the question and our life as the Office of Safe and Respectful Learning. So part of what we were really trying to get to is to allow for the districts as many tools to address the situations as they come up. So the mutual conflict could be addressed one way, and the bullying could be addressed in another way. So, like the situation that you put forth, one is that we would really hope that good focus on prevention could actually, mitigate most of this. So if the student, making sure that there are ways to report bullying and that there's relationships created in the school so that students feel comfortable going to the adults in the school to report if they are being bullied. But with that being said, sometimes that doesn't happen, like you said, you're right. And so if that student chooses to take the situation in their own hands, it's unfortunate, and there are consequences to fighting. So we want to make sure that the conflict is addressed, and if it truly is as a result of bullying, then the bullying and the investigation and the safety plan. What we really want to make sure is that schools have the tools they need to keep their students and staff safe. And so by allowing the schools to address conflict as well and teaching students how to get along with each other, instead of just going to a bullying investigation, we feel is a key improvement to the bill.
Thank you so much for that clarification, because I think that the term mutual agreement is exactly what I was worried about. So thank you very much for that clarification. My next question has to do with later in the bill. Do you wish me to jump over to that? Okay, so my next question has to do with the beginning of the school year for the child who is 5 years of age, for kindergarten, 6 if it's in first grade. There's a mention of a test of some sort being utilized. Is this a standard test across a district? Is that this expectation, or is it a standard test across the state? What is the texting mechanism that is being considered for evaluation as to whether or not a student is prepared for kindergarten or first grade?
Dwayne Young, Interim Deputy Superintendent of Student Achievement Division. That is a test that is individualized based on the district.
So just to clarify, so the district, but it's going to be the same at every school in the district, not a school site decision.
Yes, that is correct. And part of actually the work that we've done,
Say
again,
identify.
Dwayne Young, Deputy Superintendent for Student Achievement Division. And that's part of the work that was done last session in Senate Bill 353, which required us to gather all the various assessments that each district is doing and understand how much that takes away from class time. And so that's part of that record from last session, which maps out all of the district assessments.
Perfect. Thank you so much, and thank you, Chair, for that time.
Thank you very much. And I think, Superintendent, you mentioned that you have a flow chart dealing with that specifically. Is that something that we have to upload to Nellis, or?
Superintendent Ebert, we just created it this morning, so we were more than happy to provide it to you, and it can be uploaded.
Okay, that would be great, because it is specifically on the criteria that would allow kids to go to the correct
Yeah.
grade level. Is that correct?
Yeah, Chair, if I may, do we have copies for this? May we give you a copy now and walk you through it if you?
That would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. And while we're doing that, I think, Vice Chair Taylor, did you have a question as well? And we can ask, and then we'll go back to the flow chart. And then, okay, and then we'll continue on from there.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Superintendent Ebert and team, for phone a friends, whatever we want to call it. I have a question that is related to the start of those, for those kindergartners and so on. And this is for my information being new to the ledge. Any idea why we don't mandate school until a child is 7?
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, that has been in Nevada for a very long time. I don't know the date off the top of my head. It might be in the 50s when we went back to county districts. But I can look that up and provide you that information.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Get that to the committee, Madam Chair? Why we don't start school until we're 7?
I
Till kids
believe
are-
our legal counsel
Oh.
can speak to that, and it's not a good thing.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Council. I can say that that has been part of Nevada law since 1956, it appears. I can't speak as to the policy basis for it, but it has been Nevada law for almost 70 years at this point that mandatory attendance doesn't begin until age 7.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, that's my response. Awesome.
Awesome, yeah. Do we have a committee bill? Okay, so everyone has this, and we will make sure this is up on Nellis as well. It's just literally a flow chart, and you can kind of go along, but let's go over it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, State Superintendent Joan Ebert. To your far left, let me start at the top. So if this bill moves forward, as written, by August 1st, 2023, that says my child will be, and then at the far left, age 4. So your child will be eligible for kindergarten during the next school year. Not 5 by August 1st, then it'll be the following school year. Age 5, your child is eligible to attend kindergarten. Age 6, right there in the middle, did your child attend kindergarten? So that's really where there's a termination. No, if your child did not attend kindergarten, and then to Assemblywoman's question earlier, your child will be assessed by the school district to determine if kindergarten or first grade would be the most appropriate placement. And then if your child did attend kindergarten, then their child is eligible to be enrolled in first grade. And then to the far right, age 7, did your child attend first grade? No. Same comment there. Your child will be assessed by the school district to determine if first or second grade would be the most appropriate placement. And then yes, your child is eligible to be enrolled in second grade.
Thank you for that. Does that make sense to everyone? Okay. Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation. So I will be following up on Assemblymember Taylor's question. I am a little concerned that the response to why we do it is because we've done it. I think we are in the business of changing laws here, and I am wondering why, if you are changing all of these things about kindergarten, you have not brought a change to mandating kindergarten and first grade, because I think we can all agree that those are critical for success of students. And rather than playing with dates every year, perhaps we could do something more transformational.
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, so those conversations are one that we have not had at the state level to this point in time. I appreciate your passion that you bring, and definitely, happy to have those roundtables and discussions of the mandatory K and first. There are many states that do require attendance for kindergarten and education by the age of 5. So.
Thank you. I've got a couple of questions because we have many issues that are in this bill. First is just a clarifying question on page 20 in section 12. It says August 1st preceding a school year. I think that is a little confusing with the language prior that says 5 years of age on or before August 1st preceding a school year. I think that if the school year starts on August 1st and a student's 5 on that date, that language would seem to indicate they may need to wait because August 1st is not preceding that school year. So perhaps preceding is unnecessary in that language. I just would like some clarification there.
I'm going to defer to our legal for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Asher Killian, Committee Council. So generally, school years, at least historically, have started after August 1st. So that was the reason for proceeding in that language, that the threshold date for determining whether the kid is the appropriate age or not is that August 1st that comes before the school year. And if they've hit the age threshold by that date, then they would be admitted for the school year that follows that date. If school years were to start beginning on August 1st or earlier, then it would be the August 1st that precedes the beginning of that school year. So if the beginning of the school calendar does move that far back into the summer, then you're correct. That would be the effect of this language.
I won't harp on kindergarten anymore. I do have a question on the evaluation, though. So this is on page 19 for the post-probationary teacher that has gotten 2 highly effective evaluations. I'm going to ask a first question and then I'll have a follow-up. So I would just like to know your stance on why a teacher would be granted that reprieve, that 3rd-year reprieve. Is it because it's a reward for doing excellent work? Is it because they're doing such excellent work they don't need another evaluation? What is the purpose of granting them that observation only?
Thank you, Craig Satuki, Interim Deputy Superintendent for Educator Effectiveness and Family Engagement, through Chair Bilbray Axelrod to Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. So, yes, you can kind of essentially view that as a reward. The highly effective teacher in the 3rd year would still go through the observation cycle of the administrator doing a pre-observation conference, the observation, and then the post-observation conference. The difference would be that instead of essentially a full evaluation that most teachers receive, it would be a shorter form indicating that teacher or administrator is still effective or highly effective in their position. So it does shorten the process a little bit for those highly effective teachers, but the entire observation process still takes place. That teacher doesn't get a free year of no observations.
So I think that speaks to the heart of my question, because I am a teacher who has been rated highly effective most of my career. Many of my colleagues have been. And we've been told that 3rd year is supposed to be your reward. You've done such a good job, you don't have to be evaluated this 3rd year. However, for me, my experience doesn't change at all, right? I still get evaluated. I still go in and meet with the administrator. I still fill out all the paperwork. The only person rewarded is my admin, who does less paperwork. And I think I am concerned at the point 2 where it says at the discretion of the administrator who conducts the observation cycle. So if I have an admin that is very type A and wants to do a full evaluation every time, I will never get a break. And so I just want some clarity on the goal here, because if the goal is to give our teachers a break or to reward them for excellence in teaching, there needs to be more clarity in actually giving them that break.
Craig Satuki, Interim Deputy Superintendent for Educator Effectiveness and Family Engagement. For the record, through Chair Bilbray Axelrod to Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch. So again, the observation process goes through regardless of whether that teacher is highly effective, developing, or ineffective. And so the process in terms of the observation is the same. The only thing that changes under the current system would be that summative evaluation is shortened. The evidence that's provided by the educator and by the administrator still maintains through those observation cycles. What this language is trying to do is that we based on feedback that our department has received in terms of clarification, is we do have teachers and administrators who are highly effective for 2 years in a row that actually want that summative evaluation for a variety of reasons. For example, a lot of our teachers who are utilizing the Teach Nevada Scholarship have to have an effective or highly effective evaluation for 5 years. So if they were effective for 2 years, they actually need that 3rd evaluation. They need that 3rd full evaluation so that they can continue to receive that Teach Nevada Scholarship. So there's a variety of reasons there. Another aspect in terms of the evaluator, as you brought up, is that there are cases in which a teacher has changed schools or changed grades, and so maybe they went from a middle school to an elementary school, and while they were highly effective at the middle school, we all know that grade levels change, and so then an evaluator may want to do a full evaluation on that educator because the circumstances of what that teacher is teaching has now changed.
Thank you very much. Move on to Assemblywoman Thomas.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I do appreciate it. My questions actually have to deal with Section 7 and Section 8. The language is almost verbatim, identically, but it specifies charter schools and university schools. And my question is that CCSD is not listed in here, and I'm wondering why.
Section 7 and 8 were struck from the bill per the amendment.
Okay. I stand.
I mean, you know what, I I think our committee council can address that, but they are, if you look at the amendment, just for the record, section 1, 4, 5, 7, 8, 13, 14, and 15 have all been taken out of the bill. But Asher, please, Mr. Killian, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Asher Killian, Committee Counsel. And I understand that these sections are in the friendly amendment to be struck from the bill, but just for the sake of explanation, those sections mentioned by the Assemblywoman deal with chapters 388A and 388C of NRS, which are the provisions that govern charter schools and university schools respectively. The corresponding language for traditional public schools generally in school districts is in chapter 392 of NRS. And so corresponding language would be down in sections 14 and 15 of the bill as introduced to mirror the language in those sections that were cited.
Thank you, Chair. All right, so since we've struck that out, my question then again is how do we address restorative justice?
Assemblywoman Thomas, I'm going to go ahead and answer. All references to restorative justice has been taken out of this bill. We have several bills coming forward at a later date from both sides, both houses, as well as the governor. So we will be having robust conversations about this, but it's not coming forward in this bill.
All right, thank you, and I look forward to that because I feel like that is something that we need to address strenuously, especially in CCSD. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Moscow.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the presentation. My question is on section 6, number 5. And I know that it comes from a lot of feedback from our schools that the 2 days isn't long enough. And I know where the proposal is to change it to 5. So my question was just, if you know now or if you can get us the data, I know last session we worked hard to make sure that the discrimination based on race was included in bullying and cyberbullying. So just wanted to see what the data has been now of how many of these incidences are discrimination based off race versus bullying versus cyberbullying.
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, would be more than happy to provide the committee with that information. Thank you.
Thank you. So if you could just get it to the committee, and I'll make sure we get that out to everyone. Anyone else? Oh, no problem. Both of you have questions? Okay. We'll start with you, Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, maybe my technology wasn't working. And thank you for being here. I appreciate this handout. That does help to see the flow chart. First, a comment in regards to what has come up from some of my colleagues and in response to why don't we mandate attending school till 7. I'm about as old as the statute that existed to its inception. So just a little color from my perspective, having gone to school in the 60s and the 70s, and then having children gone through a system here in Nevada from the 80s, the last one graduating in 2017. From my point of view, from what I've seen be involved in education in my capacity as a parent and as a volunteer, I appreciate the not mandating until 7 just because there's some flexibility there because all children are different and we know developmentally, especially with boys, sometimes certain physiological things aren't quite where they should be in time for school, and whether it be reading and their eyesight and the development of that. So for parents to have that ability to have that flexibility until maybe they're 7. I agree there does need to be a mandate at some point. So it would be my hope that even though that's an old statute, there are some things that have wisdom even though they might be old, and certainly looking at ways to be innovative. My ask would be, do we have any, and I know you won't have it now, is there a way for us to get some statistics about how many kids don't start school until they're 7? If that's not too hard to get. So, I mean, how many children are we actually talking about don't even start until that later age of 7. And if it's not too hard to do it, same with, well, 6 is where some kids start anyway. I know with my husband, he was an October birthday, he missed it, and so when he started kindergarten, he actually had just turned 6. So just the 7-year-old, if we could, that would be great. Thank you.
Superintendent Ebert, for the record, that is not data that we've collected to date, and I'm not sure, but I can work with the school districts to see if there is some sort of tracking, especially with the influx and, you know, people moving transitory as our state is, if those specific children would be entering public school. But please, thank you for giving us the opportunity to investigate. But I know it's not data that we currently have today.
Thank you, and I will follow up on the Assemblywoman. 2 things. I would very much like that information, so if it's not something that we're collecting now, maybe we can add it at an amendment to this bill. And I'd like to point out that look who her husband became a state senator because he was older in his class. Because there's all those advantages to being older in your class, parents out there who are thinking about starting their 4-year-old in kindergarten. So I too am one of those who is the oldest in my class. So Assemblywoman Torres.
Thank you. And I'm just hoping to get some clarification on what section is this? Section 10 of the bill on page 19. And it might benefit if legal can kind of jump in here and give me just a summary of what's going on in sub 3 on page 19. I just kind of, I want to make sure, because there's 2 different parts to what that observation looks like for a post-probationary teacher. So one, I want to know, the post-probationary teacher, I believe, is after the 2 years teaching. Okay, I'm seeing heads nod, so that means yes. And then I just want clarification of what that post-probation teacher observation looks like now and what this bill is adding to it.
Interim Deputy Superintendent Craig Satuki for the record. Through Chair Bilbray Axelrod to Assemblywoman Torres, the observation process itself should not change regardless of the language of this bill. When you think of a full observation cycle, where you have a pre-observation conference, the actual observation, the post-observation conference, that observation cycle still is going to occur. What this bill does is it provides flexibility to the educator and to the administrator that if a teacher wanted an evaluation, whether it's for the Teach Nevada scholarship, they wanted a promotion, within their district, or they were looking at potentially transferring to another school, they had a full evaluation that they would have that. So it wouldn't change anything to the observation cycle. It would change the bill, really clarifies that in that 3rd year, a teacher can ask for, or an administrator could request that teacher has a full evaluation, full summative evaluation.
And I think the chair's allowing a follow-up, but can you give me the language where it says in here that allows for them to not have any, where they don't have the full evaluation? I understand that there is that one observation cycle within the year, but I want to know exactly where it permitted that. I guess we're adding that so that they may receive one evaluation, but they also may not receive one evaluation. Is that what I'm?
Interim Deputy Superintendent Craig Satuki, oh my gosh, I'm tying my own tongue. I'm trying to talk fast. Interim Deputy Superintendent for Educator Effectiveness and Family Engagement, Craig Satuki for the record, directly to you, Assemblywoman Torres. So there's a difference between an observation and evaluation. An evaluation is a summative tool that an educator or administrator receives at the end. The observation is what occurs during the school year that makes up, when you take multiple observations, makes up that final summative evaluation. So we're not, when you're going back and you're looking at it, we're not changing that observation cycle. Those observations are still occurring. What's changing is whether or not a teacher is receiving essentially a full summative evaluation or a shorter summary evaluation. Does that answer your question?
I think I'm going to need more clarification offline on what the system looks like, and I do have issue with giving the administrator the discretion of whether or not that's going to count, because it should, from the conversation that you all had earlier, the teacher might need it based off of the program that they're in or whatever, other situations. That seems to be at the discretion of the teacher, not at the discretion of the administrator. So I guess I just want more clarification of what it is right now, what you're trying to fix, and how this language actually fixes it, because I don't feel that, if that's what we're trying to fix, I don't feel like the language fixes it.
Interim Deputy Superintendent for Educator Effectiveness and Family Engagement, Craig Stuckey. We'll be happy to meet with you offline and kind of clarify that for you.
Okay, thank you. I think that wraps up the questions from committee members, yes? Okay, so next we will hear the testimony. So if you guys want to step back. Testimony provided in person here in Carson City via video conference in Las Vegas or over the phone. Further instructions for providing testimony on the bill can be found on our agenda, which is online. Please note that I'll be limiting bill testimony to 30 minutes. We'll take 30 minutes of support if we need it, 30 minutes of opposition, and 30 minutes for neutral. This was written before the bill was gutted, so I don't think we'll need that, but just in case. Each person has 2 minutes to provide testimony. Please keep your remarks to point and avoid repetition. First, we will hear testimony in support of AB 65. Anyone in Carson City? Nope. Anyone in Las Vegas? No one is walking up. BPS, do we have anyone on the phone line for support of AB 65?
To provide testimony in support of AB 65, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. And caller, please remember to state and spell your first and last name. Chair, it appears that we have no callers wishing to provide testimony in support at this time.
Okay. With that, we will close testimony for support and move on to opposition. Anyone here in Carson City? I see Mr. Daly approaching the bench. Go ahead, Mr. Daly.
Madam Chair, Chris Daly, Nevada State Education Association, the voice of Nevada educators for over 120 years. NSCA seeks an amendment in sections 10 and 11 of the bill related to the year immediately following the school year in which a post-probationary teacher receives a second consecutive evaluation designating their performance as highly effective. I think following up on the questioning from committee members, I believe both with the first name of Selena. Currently, teachers who have 2 consecutive highly effective evaluations do not have that evaluation in the following year. They do have that observation language, as we heard in this bill, would allow either the teacher or that administrator conducting that observation to trigger an evaluation. We think that that language should be either just the teacher or both the teacher and that administrator, but that the administrator alone should not be able to trigger that evaluation. It's not in writing, but we were listening and very interested in some of the comments, I believe, from Assemblymember Taylor and LaRue Hatch about the possibility of requiring an earlier start time in terms of kindergarten and first grade. The Nevada State Education Association would be very supportive of this committee potentially pursuing that issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Daly, and I will say that you should go ahead and talk to both Assemblywoman Selena Torres and Assemblywoman Selena LaRue Hatch, but important stuff. No, but I would please follow up on those issues, and we'll look forward to hearing much more from you. Okay, so anyone in Las Vegas in opposition? Don't see anyone. Anyone on the phone, BPS, in opposition?
To provide testimony in opposition of AB 65, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. And callers, please remember to state and spell your first and last name. Caller, press star 6 to unmute, please, with the last digits of 149. Thank you. I apologize. My hand was raised for support. Is it okay if I give my testimony for that now?
Yes, we will do that. So I'm just going to put on the record that we're moving this back to support, just so the record is clear.
Thank you. Hand was raised, but it did not get called until opposition, so I apologize. Good afternoon, Chair, esteemed members of the Education Committee. I am Annette Dawson-Owens, and I'm grateful to serve as the School Readiness Policy Director for the Children's Advocacy Alliance. We appreciate the language around restorative justice being removed from AB 65 and for honoring the work that has gone into this and will continue to go into it in the future. We're now in support of AB 65, but do have one concern in Section 12 related to the date change for kindergarten eligibility now being August 1st. This change to an earlier date impacts a number of families who are planning on sending their child to kindergarten and now have to come up with some other plan both financially and educationally. This can put a large strain on families who may have been planning on entering into the workforce, changing jobs, adding to their schedule, of more liquid assets to make it in these expensive times, etc. But now they have to plan on yet another full year of childcare. In addition, they may have mapped out and planned for their child's education, and now after completing pre-K, may not be able to even find a spot or availability for the continuation of their child's quality education. We would advocate for an exemption to be made for families affected by this date change for this year so they can continue on with their child's education, not be financially impacted by the date change. Thank you for all your efforts and much appreciation for listening, for allowing us to share considerations and to problem solve with solutions for Nevada children and families.
Thank you. And actually, that it will go in opposition. So just a reminder that if you are in support of the bill, you are in support of the bill as written with the friendly amendment. If you are like, I like everything about the bill except this one section, that is technically in our rules as opposition. So we will go back to the beginning where we were in opposition, then we went to support, and now we're back to opposition, and we'll stay in opposition. Are there any more callers for opposition?
If you recently joined the call and would like to testify in opposition of AB 65, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller, please press star 6 to unmute on your end. I apologize, Chair. It seems that there was issues with that caller. They did drop off. I will move on to the next caller. Caller, if you recently joined and would like to testify in opposition of AB 65, please press star 9. Chair, it appears we have no callers in opposition at this time.
Okay, we will move on to neutral. Is there anyone in neutral of the bill? I see people standing, so please begin when ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Paige Barnes with the Ferrado Company here today on behalf of the Nevada Association of School Boards. We are here neutral. We appreciate the amendment from the Department of Education and just need time to review and get feedback from our board members. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Dr. Mary Przinski, here representing Nevada Association of School Superintendents, and our organization is comprised of all 17 superintendents throughout the state. We appreciate many things in this bill, but because there is an amendment, we need to take that back to our superintendents and get their feedback. So thank you. That's why we're in the neutral position. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I don't see anyone else in Carson City. Las Vegas, is there anyone in neutral? I see folks approaching. Just fill up those seats and begin when ready. Go ahead and begin. Las Vegas, you need to press the microphone.
Thank you. Pastor Troy Martinez with Restorative Nevada and Dagin Schools. Madam Chair Shannon Bilbay Axelrod and Assembly Committee members stand in neutral to this bill and would like to encourage the notion that restorative practices are being utilized here in Las Vegas and the Clark County School District. Additional restorative practices are sensible and safe and prevent other root causes, addressing violence and safety issues for school staff and students. And we would like to thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. Nice to see you. Next in Las Vegas.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Tanya Walls. I'm representing Code Switch Restorative Justice for Girls of Color. And we also stand neutral primarily because we need time to review the bill with the given amendments. And I'd also like to state that we stand in solidarity with Restorative Nevada in maintaining the language around restorative justice practices rather than approaches. And we will review this legislation, this bill with the amendment, and then check back with our members. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have one more person up there, I believe.
Good afternoon. My name is Diego Tapias, and I'm the parent of a 4-year-old that is affected by this law. And first of all, let me say thank you for the opportunity to speak. Unfortunately, this change is a big deal for us. Having a 4-year-old that's close to 5 years old, another year at home, most of the middle class cannot afford to have some sort of preschool, which is very expensive. And so we will be affected by it. The best I can do is have my wife take care of it, which takes her off her job, and stay home another year taking care of her watching YouTube videos, which is totally unacceptable for her age. So I went ahead and I looked up some of the dates, and states like New Jersey, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, and other states in New England, and then Northeast have cutoff dates closer to later in September, October, versus states like Nebraska, North Dakota, and Arkansas have early dates in August like we do. And guess what those states have in common with us? They're bottom states. So when people say it's okay to be doing what we've been doing in the past, well, that might apply to some things. But if you look carefully, we want to get out of being the last state in education. Now, if you look at states again like New York, Massachusetts, and Vermont, what do they have in common? They're the top 3 and top 4 in the nation in education. In fact, if we look just at New Jersey, which is number 1, their cutoff date is October 1st. And they're also the home to Princeton University, number 1 for undergrad. So those are things that we should really consider when we look at our kids and our future. Because to me, this is very, very important. And I understand when people are saying, take this personal. But for me, my kid's education is really important. And right now, she'd be out of school. And wouldn't, just the pre-K itself, it's only 2 hours a day. So that doesn't really help. And so I really appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much.
And thank you for that testimony. I am going to put that in the opposition category, just for we're clear on that. It looks like somebody else is coming up to the desk, so if we could open up those seats. And we are currently in neutral.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, my name is Marie Nisus. I'm the president of CCEA, and I too would like time to look at the friendly amendment, so I'm speaking in neutral. While there are things in the bill that we agree with, there's also things in there that we do not agree with. One of the changes that I appreciate is the extended number of days to investigate an incident. As a former classroom teacher, as well as a strategist who dealt with children's behaviors, I understand that we need time to investigate and ensure that we do our due diligence when we are investigating, whether it's an incident of bullying or a racially motivated behavior situation. And I also am in agreement with, I'd like to just echo what Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch said regarding the evaluation process. I think the language is a little convoluted in the sense that I'm not sure if, like she said, are we doing it to take the burdens off our educators or take the burdens off of our administrators? So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, and I would encourage you, once again, to work with the Assemblywoman. Maybe we can get some verbiage to make that clearer, so thank you. Okay, we have callers. Any callers on the line, BPS in neutral?
To provide testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 65, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. And please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Chair Axelrod. My name is Camila Bywaters. I'm the president of the Las Vegas Alliance of Black School Educators. My name is spelled Kamilah, Bywaters, Bywaters. And today, after hearing the presentations, there is a lot going on in this bill, but I just wanted to offer some information in regards to the bullying, the proposal to change some of the bullying language. Bettina Love, in her article, Anti-Black State Violence, the Classroom Edition and the Spirit Murdering of Black Children, she talks about this concept that I think I would like for you all, if you have an opportunity to read the article. She talks about spirit murdering. And I've had incidents with bullying that have impacted my family, my child at his school. One incident, he was stabbed with a pencil. I had to take him to the doctor. A second incident, a child was yelling in his face, and I happened to witness that with my own eyes, and he threw his shoe. And the third incident, he was called a boo-boo head. Now, this may seem like joking terms, but my son is a student who wears locks. And for me, I think it's really important that we look at, that we ensure that in our early grades, my son's in the first grade, that we ensure that we're starting early to teaching our students about the ramifications of bullying, what that looks like, and that we cannot be in the practice of spirit murdering. And we know that our state, and especially Clark County School District, has not done the best job of educating Black children. And also for the evaluation process, I think it's great that we're starting to have this conversation around evaluation. As a person who gets quite a few complaints about the evaluation process, I would hope and recommend that there's a more conversation about evaluations and experiences from teachers in the district and throughout the state on how they're impacted by evaluations. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that testimony. BPS, is there anyone else on the line in neutral?
If you've recently joined the call, oh, sorry, Chair, hold on just one moment.
Hello, good afternoon. CYRUS, HOJJACY, Cyrus Hojani. There are some pretty bright spots about this bill. You know, I agree that bullying and conflict should be lowered. I've been victims of bullying before, including of my background. However, this does not address the heart of the problem. And I know this is a taboo subject, and I know that there are some upsides to this, I agree. But having differences of ethnic, racial, religious, and language origin brings conflict. And we see this all over the world. We see that whenever you see differences of people, I can give you multiple examples of Sudan, where you have the country split up among racial lines, they break up. There's a lot of fighting going on. India, the list goes on. And I think that we need to address the fact that some people just like to live in a monoculture or hang out in monoculture places, because people deep down in their bones, they're not happy with it. And I think, many of us in our personal conversations can say not so pleasant things about each other. So I think we should look into the deep down root causes of the problem and admit that this is just how humans are by nature and look into it. But anyway, I will just yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you for the call. BPS, anyone else on the line in neutral testimony?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but there are no more callers in neutral.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close the hearing on AB 65. Look forward to many more conversations about all subjects that were discussed today. We'll now move on to public comment. As a reminder, members of the public can provide public comment in person, telephonically, or they can submit public comment up to 24 hours after the meeting. For those wishing to provide public comment telephonically, instructions for doing so, including the phone number and meeting ID, can be found on the agenda for today's meeting. The agenda is posted in Nellis. Each person has 2 minutes to provide testimony. Please remember to clearly state and spell your name for the record. Is there any public comment here in Carson City? Not seeing anyone coming up. Any public comment in Las Vegas? See some people in there, but I don't see anybody moving. Okay, and BPS, anyone on the line for public comment?
Chair, the public line is open and working, but we have no callers at this time.
Okay, with that, we will move on to adjournment. Our next meeting will be Thursday, February 23rd at 1:30. And that concludes the meeting for the day.